Hi there, this is Steve Spurrier. You can join University of Florida Hall of Famer Shane Matthews and also the two-time SEC Player of the Year every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, opinions, and some of the biggest names in sports. You can find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or you can watch him live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
Happy Friday morning to you, 19th day of April, 2024. It's National High Five Day. So, JC, my man, my partner in crime today over the course of the next 60 minutes, I am Seth Harp, in for Shane Matthews today on PodUp with Matthews in the morning, of course. PodUp with Matthews in the morning, coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Questions for JC and myself today, courtesy of Meldon Law on Facebook. Facebook Live questions brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official injury law firm partner of the Florida Gators. YouTube questions. JC will handle those from Quality Plumbing, residential and commercial plumbing services, emergency repair since 1984. Our name says it all. And of course, text lines, hotlines. Fire away. Titan MRI hotline 352-353-7465. That's 352-353-7465. My man JC, I know it's been a hot minute. Back to the saddle again. And boy, we're we could start in a lot of different places, but Gator baseball, I'll be the first to say it. That's it. This team is what, 19 and 18 now, JC?
Yeah, it's a lot of losses. Yeah.
They are an above average baseball team, and they are loaded with underclassmen. They lost, the best prospect or the best player in the draft last year. If you get up to the bigs in 50 games, JC, and start, you're doing something. Okay?
Yeah.
They lost their heart and soul behind the plate. They lost their heart and soul in the infield. They lost their top two starters. And at this level, you cannot reload with freshmen and win immediately. They're not. They've taken a step back. They are the equivalent of a play-in game now in college basketball or the NBA. Good morning to you, JC.
Yeah, well, so I think you laid it out pretty thoroughly there. There's no question that it's a different team, just like LSU. They call LSU the defending champions. They are only the defending champions in name, okay? That team is not the LSU team that dominated last season for obvious reasons. You can't be the same team if you lose all of the players responsible for helping you win, right? And that's what's happened with Florida in a lot of ways, and you laid it out very nicely. I think this weekend they're playing a Vanderbilt team that is in no way, shape, or form that 2014 or 2019 version of the Vanderbilt Commodores, obviously. So it's a chance to win. Vanderbilt played Texas A&M last weekend, got swept. In the first two games of that series with Texas A&M, they did not score a run. That has never happened, I believe, or maybe it's only happened once under Tim Corbin. So this is not the Vandy boys of 2014 and 2019. So Florida's got an opportunity maybe to get back on the top end of their SEC record and maybe win a couple of games up there in Nashville. I'm not sure they can, but we'll see. It's a big series. Either way, I worry about Florida's eligibility for the SEC tournament, much less a regional, and they've just got way too many losses. So we'll see what happens. We all talked about how the midweek games don't matter. It does on the record, obviously. And that's not a very gaudy thing. Now, their ranking is something different than what their record looks like in terms of where they were before they went to Missouri and got swept. I think that Missouri weekend really spelled doom for this team and exposed them for, I guess, what they really are, and that's a 500 baseball team.
It's funny, JC, because now I'm hearing that there is a push. Remember, they lost those games at the beginning of the year with St. John's because of weather. There's a push to get a couple, because once we get to the late stages of April, they pretty much wrap up those midweek games on Tuesdays. They're scattered, but they're not part of the regular cycle. Yeah. They're going to need those if they're going to finish above 500.
Well, that's
where we were what, as we look at 7-8 going into yesterday, halfway through the SEC season, and you've got Arkansas and Kentucky and 2 more with Vandy coming up. The tough part of the schedule is on the horizon. So let's say at best, this team down the stretch goes 8-6. And I'm being very generous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you're only 3 games above 500 heading into the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
If you qualify, as you said, JC. So, I mean, that's talking about winning like series at Kentucky. You can't get swept anymore.
Well, you know, and what bothers me, and this is what I was saying, I told this to Shane, they can't stop other teams from scoring. I mean, Vandy gets 10 runs last night. So Florida needs to win these last 2. 10 runs, my God. I mean, it's almost like a theme with this university. They couldn't stop anybody in football. In the basketball game that ended their season, they went on a 17 possession scoring route. Colorado did. Colorado, 102 points. It's just an issue with Florida, and they can't stop baseball teams from double-digit runs. And Vanderbilt, like I said, got shut out in their first 2 games, and here they are scoring 10 runs. So, it's just the way it is. And maybe I'm not going to say. I'm kind of getting out of the prediction business with this university. I just can't. I can't get it right, man. I couldn't get it right with football. I was definitely wrong with that. Shane was more wrong than I was. In basketball, I thought we were going to go past the first round like everybody did, playing a team that had played 2 nights before, lost that one because some guy couldn't be stopped down in the post. And now we got baseball that's giving up double-digit runs every night they play. I mean, it's just kind of it's like get out of this business of predicting when it comes to Florida. I'm sorry if that sounds bad, folks, but that's reality, and everybody knows it, and you can't really run from reality.
I am not in the and I've learned this. I'm not in the prediction business, JC. I'm in the assessment business. And what my assessment on this baseball team is they are an average baseball team, and that's just the way it is sometimes. Now in 2 years, 2 years when these sophomores or these freshmen or juniors, they can be pretty salty in this conference again and make another deep run from Omaha. They're not going to host a regional. They're going to be on the road if they're lucky. And you could end up at Florida State. You talk about a biblical locust nightmare, Noah's flood times 10 situation. Could you imagine getting boat raced by them by 10, 15 runs?
Well, they can't beat them anyway. I mean, they haven't beaten Florida State all year. It's been a drought against Florida State.
Yeah, and it's one of these things too where this team is right now. You kind of look around, and there are certain times you just say to yourself, all right, well, maybe if this happens now, if this happens, and this is where I am, JC, if I get more than 2 ifs with any conversation with somebody, I check out. It's like when I hear somebody say, now hear me out. I know about what's about ready to come out of your mouth. There's a bunch of sewage. So when I hear, now if this happens, okay, I'll give you 1 if. But when you go, and if you get a second if, I'm out.
Well,
too much.
You're out. You're out like trout. Well, yeah. I get it. I get it. So, we've got softball. That's got some hope to it. Although I don't know how much hope when it comes down to, the postseason. I mean, I'm sure they'll compete hard and play hard. But again, very young, freshman pitching. This is the kind of team where I think you look at the softball team, you put your money on the come line, meaning back to the prediction business here. They've got better days coming because they're just so young right now. I don't mind that. I mean, it's okay. You got to start somewhere. And they've got a bunch of wins, 30 some odd wins. But, when it comes down to the nitty gritty, are you really confident that they can get through and make something like a championship happen? And I don't know if I am. I was, but I'm not sure because, again, the youth is the thing. Shane always says to me that doesn't matter if they're good, they're good. But I think it does with experience to me. I just want to see. Yeah. So, but I think the future is very bright with those girls. And then, we've got a long summer ahead of us. We've got I will say this, Seth, and I don't want to branch off our topic here too far, but I saw, talking about predictions, I saw 2 predictions, 2 bets yesterday that I actually put money on. I'm going to say this for the upcoming football season on total wins for 2 teams that play each other. One of them an SEC team, one of them a Big Ten team, and that would be Michigan and Texas. And after the break, I will let you know what those predictions are and what those bets are that I put money on last night on total wins for 2 teams, Michigan and Texas. going into the 2024 season.
I hope you took over 13.5 for Texas. PodUp with Matthews this morning is brought to you in part by Silverback Concrete. Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it, and we stand by it. Also, Tropical Smoothie. Live a healthier lifestyle with a bold, flavorful smoothie from Tropical Smoothie. Tropical Smoothie, when you eat better, you feel better. That is the truth. Okay, so as we talked about baseball out of the gate, it's just not their year. When you've got two freshmen and you try to 94, 95 mile an hour gas up, juniors that are going to be first round draft picks, you're going to get eaten alive in this conference. They've been eaten alive in this conference. JC is just do it. I can't think of the last time. When's the last time they went into a series and gave up less than 24 runs?
Yeah,
right. They just give up tons and tons and tons of runs. And Jack Caglione, they remind me a lot of those Red Sox teams from the early 2000s when it was just like Nomar and Pedro. That's Jack Caglione combined, and it's just not enough. And
not enough.
And I've heard people say they're wasting a great season from him. No, he's a great player, maybe the best player in college baseball on an average baseball team. That's just the way it is. This team's going to claw, fight. They'll be competitive in games, but games that they won last year, 10-7, they're now losing 10-7 on the inverse, and that's just the way it's going to be. So
it's going to be.
And enjoy it. Enjoy him. This is my, I guess, message, my creed. Enjoy him while you got him, because those don't grow on trees.
No.
And he's got a chance to break some records, some hollowed records. And when it's done, it's done. But this will be a better baseball team next year, even without the best player in the country on it.
It will be. And I finally tipped over last weekend when South Carolina scored 28 runs. And I said, okay, well, I'm right. I said, they just don't stop anybody from scoring. So you're right. I think, again, this is all about the future for these two groups, especially baseball, more so than maybe softball. Well, softball for sure with all that freshman pitching. But for baseball, it's the days going forward, kind of like with the football team. I think they'll be better.
Yeah. Really quick, and providing analysis and in-depth discussion on this. Not my forte. I know my limits, but I enjoy watching it. Gymnastics wins, and they're off to the Final Four once again. And this is all just about what type of day you have. And look, they hit on all cylinders. They do have a chance to win it this weekend. Of course, they have a chance to win it. But when you get into those situations, JC, you know as well as I do, it's degree of difficulty and what apparatus you hit at what time. I mean, that's
going to Fort Worth. Yes, going to Fort Worth on Saturday, competing. When it comes to confidence with this athletic department, for me, it's with men's golf right now. It's with women's tennis. It's with gymnastics for sure. Maybe to a certain extent, volleyball. And that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And isn't it interesting because of where we hit into the spring sports spectrum now, and gymnastics, probably no, because tennis could do it. And like you mentioned, golf, where we are with golf too, that, let's be honest with each other. We know that baseball is not winning a national championship. No. It would take a month. It would be one of the more improbable things in the history of this university for them to get back to Omaha now at this point. Softball's got a chance to go to Oklahoma City, although they did hit the skids, last few weeks here where they lost 2 or 3 and lost a midweek game. And, right now what happens when you get to this
point, just young. They're just young, Seth. They got young players.
Well, you win every series and all of a sudden you drop one. Well, what's wrong? Well, you weren't going to win them all. At least what they're doing, what's different is they're not getting swept. So they're hanging in there right now. I sit here and I try to take stock in this. Softball can get to Oklahoma City. They can. Of course, baseball, we're going to be on the road for a regional. Them getting out of a regional would be a long haul.
Well, I think getting invited to a regional is something they got to think about. There. And getting to the SEC championship and making some hay there. But again, I don't care when the other team is scoring 10 runs consistently against you. What is the point? The point is that you're just surviving at this point. So I don't mind. Look, I last year was great. I mean, they got to the final series. They played the LSU Tigers. Okay, Folks in LSU are dying right now, too, because their teams know. When I went to Mississippi and played golf last weekend, I always play with a group from Louisiana. There's a bunch of guys from Baton Rouge that come over. I love them all. They're fun. They had made reservations to Omaha last year back in January for the May Omaha World Series. They knew they were that good. Not one of them told me they were even thinking about traveling to go anywhere in the postseason to follow their baseball team. And LSU's a fan base that is as good or maybe the best in terms of traveling to support their teams as any in college. I mean, they take over places when they go there, and it doesn't matter what sport almost. It's crazy, their love for their Tigers in all sports, and it's impressive. But these guys had no plans, and it's obvious why. They don't win the games. So if you don't win, you're not going to make plans.
PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Seth Harp in for Shane Matthews. Of course, JC, as always, brought to you in part by Radware. Radware, family-owned business that prides itself on excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. Let's scurry on over Facebook Live. Facebook Live questions courtesy of Meldon Law. Well, let's see what we got here. Tim, Seth is a Grogan fan. I don't know what that means. I'm not. Do you know what that means? Okay.
No. Who is Grogan? Steve Grogan. He played quarterback for the Patriots back in the 70s. He was good. He had a long neck. He was a very long neck guy. I got a text message from our wonderful viewer, Freddie. He wanted to straighten me out on these spring sports rankings. Freddie says, we're number 2 in men's track and field. Okay, great. But Freddie, I don't watch that. Nobody watches that. Okay, but thank you. Number 4 in gymnastics. We already talked about that. Number 9 in lacrosse. Okay. 10 people watch that. Number 9 in softball. Okay, great, but we already talked about them. That's a future story still. They're not winning the national title. Women's golf, women's track and field, women's tennis. I'm not sure about women's golf. They were absolute miserable in the SEC golf tournament. So I'm going to scratch the women's golf team. You don't finish 13th in the SEC tournament and try to fool me into anything that's coming. Women's tennis, I always believe in tennis here at the University of Florida. It's a dynasty on both sides, actually. And then men's golf, of course. J.C. Deacon won a tournament. Of course, they're going to go win the SECs. And, of course, they're going to play in the regionals and qualify for the NCAAs. And then we talked about baseball 24. We already know what that is. So, but the text was helpful, Freddie. Thank you for that. And look, I mean, spring sports has always been good here in Florida. I mean, Jeremy Foley put an emphasis on this way back when. I mean, it's something that I think he valued. And it's something that even though these are all non-revenue producing type sports, they are followed by fans, some of them anyway. So I'm all for it, but I can't stay up at night worrying about, when the men's track and field team plays. And no disrespect to them. I just can't follow it. There's too many events. There's too many, it's just too much. I'm not a beat writer for the University of Florida. I'll say that. Until they start paying me, I'm not going to worry about the track and field team unless they win it all. And then I'll say, well, once again, Mike Holloway is the greatest coach the University of Florida has ever had on the aggregate. And I will agree with that.
Yeah, there's certain sports that are consumption sports. There are other sports that are follow along sports. And there's other sports that are, hey, look what happened sports.
Yeah.
Andy says the Gators are number 3 in men's swimming and diving. Yep, you're correct.
Okay, that's great. I mean, I'd rather be number 3 than number 30. Good job. But again, nobody talks about this. I mean, it's just this is fine. Okay, it's great.
Greg writes in, so you're predicting Florida will be a better baseball team next year? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they will.
How can you be? Look, they're 19 and 18, Seth.
Yeah, of course they will be. Yeah. My old man was a baseball coach for 40 years, JC, and he had this famous line. He said, "You know what the best part about freshmen is? They become sophomores, and and sophomores become juniors, and that's exactly where we're going to end up going with this when it's all said and done." And hey, look, it's just you can't replace 6 starters and your top 2 guys in the rotation that carried you to Omaha by tossing 7 innings and 2 earned runs in regional and super regional play and think you're going to shove 2 freshmen or 2 underclassmen into that role and think we're going to pick up right where we left off. You can have the big bad wolf all you want. It doesn't mean – look at this. It's not the same. But, JC, Barry Bonds in the late 90s and early 2000s with the Giants tore it up. right? 70 home runs, 60 home runs, 100 RBI a year. He retires. The Giants go on to win 3 World Series the next decade. Okay, sometimes losing that type of stud balances things out.
Yeah, they lost him, but they got Bruce Bochy. So Scott on YouTube correctly says, you guys are bummers this morning. How about gymnastics? Okay, no, we talked about that, Scott. Thank you. But then Brian comes back and says they're not bummers, they're just telling the truth. Listen, I whatever. You want me to placate you, that's fine. I don't do that. I'm not in that business.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna tell you what I think. And so, what I think is that there's some good things and there's some bad things. Like with every school, we just got to accept the good with the bad. Right now, baseball pitching is bad, and that's as far as it gets. I mean, you're 19 and 18. That's it. So,
and I've said this time and time again.
It's all right.
Yeah, doing this for 30 years now, I always fancy myself as a sports doctor. I look at things and I make diagnoses. If you don't want me to tell you you're fat, don't come in 250 pounds overweight, right? And this baseball team right now is obese. So it's just the way it is. I mean, you would tell you, oh, you look great, body positivity. You're not going to have a heart attack. Keep up the good work. Eating bear claws like they're Tic Tacs. Yeah, okay.
I got to find some gluten-free stuff, man. I get the bloatedness going. I can't help it. It's not like I eat a lot. I had 5 shrimp tacos last night. They're little tiny, little itty bitty things. I walked out there feeling like the Michelin Man. I swear to God. And it's because I ate those taco shells that have all that gluten in them or something. I don't know. I didn't know I had such a bad gluten intolerance. It doesn't make me feel bad. It just makes me feel like the Michelin Man. Any tips you got for me, Seth, on health and wellness? Because
sure.
Don't eat shrimp tacos. Is that what it is?
Videos on this all the time. Ozempic, get yourself some shots, baby. Get yourself 30 pounds in a month.
It's a miracle. Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk.
What do you know?
Yeah.
Good stuff. He's JC. I'm Seth Harp. PodUp in the morning with you here on this Friday. Brought to you in part by Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and the surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. Join us.
There goes the crew.
For Peachland Dentistry, JC and the QB's weekend picks.
JC and the QB.
They're this weekend.
Let's say again.
So they're at the Heritage this weekend, right?
They are down in South Carolina. You know what I can't believe, and this is probably the first time I've noticed this, but maybe it's happened more. But the guy who won the Masters just a few days ago, whose wife is as pregnant as it gets, is playing golf in Hilton Head at Heritage. Scotty Scheffler. The field they have for this tournament is as good as the damn TPC almost. I mean, it's incredible. Coming off a major, that's typically not the way it was, but the purses are bigger these days. And I guess that's really all it's about, right? Now we're supposed to believe that. And here's Scotty Scheffler, who had won in 1 week as they came through Florida at the Bay Hill and the TPC, winning both those tournaments. In 1 week, the guy won over $8 million. Money is just flying out of the sky to this guy because he's so good. And he wins the Masters, and now he's playing golf. He's 2 under at the Heritage. It's incredible, this guy. So, that's what they're doing. Rory McIlroy is actually under par in this tournament. So it's a real thing to watch if you're into golf this weekend. I'd also say get ready for the hockey playoffs, which I said on Wednesday was the single most exciting if you're into hockey or if you're into just competition and you love watching sports and you love watching guys fight it out and leave everything they have on the playing apparatus or whatever field or ice or whatever it is. You want to watch the hockey playoffs. They're so good. These guys fly into each other. It's phenomenal. That starts this weekend, really kicks up next week. And then the NBA, of course, they're into the playoffs. This is when I actually watch the NBA. So I'm excited about, what I think we're looking at Denver and Boston, but I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody else, other than one of those two. But Denver, to me, is the team to beat. They're the defending champions, and they are going to absolutely bury the Los Angeles Lakers coming up.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of those things where the Lakers should have been better off as the 8 seed as opposed to the 1 seed. But Denver's, Oklahoma City may have the best record, but that doesn't mean anything, at least when it comes to this. Over the course, you've got that monster of a man, and at 7 foot, and you can shoot threes, and you can, to beat a man like that 4 times in 10 days is or 11 days, or essentially around there is what you have to do. Good luck to whoever you are out there. Looking at the West, I just don't. I don't know who has that in their arsenal to do it. And even if you do it, then you get the 60+ win Boston Celtics on the other side.
Well, you got Luka with Dallas. I just don't think he's got enough around him. And I think Djokovic in Denver is the guy. I mean, that's it for me in the West. OKC, nice story, but I think it's money time now. Yeah. And then in the East, without Jimmy Butler, the Heat, who got to the finals last year, but without Jimmy Butler, who's out for 6 weeks now with a sprained knee or something, they're not going to beat the Celtics, man. Even if they win in this playoff game tonight against the Bulls, who I think they can beat even without Jimmy Butler, they're not touching the Celtics. Not this time.
Then you get Boston, you could get swept. Milwaukee, but the problem with Milwaukee is Giannis is going to miss the first 2 games against the Pacers.
He's not a healthy guy. He's not totally healthy.
And Phil like he's not 100%, and
they're gonna go heavy with the Knicks. I think that's a 6 or 7 game series, maybe.
It's interesting because you've got your big names, as we just mentioned, in this league that are back up there that are in the postseason. And anytime you get a postseason, and you can get the Knicks, and you can get Philly, and you can get Boston in the East, all part of it. And in the West, of course, the Lakers aren't what they were. But the fact that the Lakers are involved with it, the Clippers, when healthy, are one of the more dangerous teams in the league. So you got your LA squads out there. And I know your recent dynasties have taken it a little bit on the chin, like Golden State, and you've watched the end of that dynasty coming to an end. But it's one of those things that people always, for years and years, I get it. The people didn't like the NBA, upset with it after Jordan, like that era when Kobe was gone, and you're trying to figure out what you have with LeBron and where you are now. It's a good league. It really, really is. And you've got 2 big heavy hitters at the top, and your superstars. It's a sport that I can't think of the last time we've had massive guys in trouble. Now, some guy just got banned for life, as well you should if you get caught gambling. So yeah, I know they're talking about changing that where you can't bet on get rid of props and everything. All you got to do is, if you get caught betting on your team, JC, this is what's so interesting about this, because they talk about, well, you bet on your team. If you get caught gambling on your team or gambling on yourself, they should ban you for life and prosecute you and fine you $10 million. I mean, there's things that, that's how you end this. I don't know any other way to do it. If we catch you betting on your own team, you're going to prison.
They're walking such a fine line, though, because it's so promoted these days. FanDuel here, DraftKings there. It's advertised on every venue of every professional sports franchise, every single one of them. And it's hard, but you've got to keep some integrity. And you have to have a no tolerance policy, as we all know, for the players and for all those involved in the actual games, the referees, all of them. No tolerance. You're out for life if something like this comes up, because there has to be an integrity aspect to this. Of course there does. Or we wouldn't have it. So, but for people like us, and like I said, after the break, I got 2 winners for you in college football. If you're into long-term futures bets, I'm teasing this again because I can't believe these numbers for these 2 teams. And I'm telling you right now, if you lose, I might pay your bet off for you because of how confident I am on these 2. So I'll give you that after the break.
And I've got one for you too, JC. Not a gambling line quite yet, but this. Jaden Rashada.
Oh,
in Arizona State.
That guy.
The rumor is he's coming.
Georgia.
He's coming back to the SEC.
Gonna go to Georgia. Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think the way I think is with this kid, it's amazing how much airtime this kid has gotten for hardly even playing football. But after the fiasco here at Florida, I think he was always wanting to be in the Southeast to play football, even though he's from out there. And Arizona State was the only team that would even sniff at him. And so he had to go there to keep it going. He played a few games, had about 483 yards passing for them, a couple touchdown passes, a couple interceptions, but not a factor. And now he's in the news again because he wants to come, and it looks like the University of Georgia is going to take this kid. So, again, more airtime for a guy that's hardly played, but Georgia wants him. So if Georgia wants him, they must see something in him.
And we're going to tell you why that's a good thing for Florida next. JC.
Okay. And my props. I got my props. Don't forget my props after the bet. This is
JC's props. JC's props coming up next here on PodUp with Matthews in the morning.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union.
Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless, mimosas, and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Anyway, okay.
PodUp with Matthews in the morning, moving along with you here on this Friday. Seth Harp, JC, Seth Harp from Harp on Sports, of course, JC, your regular man in the saddle when it comes to this program. PodUp with Matthews in the morning is a service of QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief, no surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics today. Also, you want to be a part of the program, numerous ways to do so, courtesy of Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. YouTube, live questions, of course, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, residential and commercial plumbing services and emergency repair since 1984. Their name says it all. Titan MRI Hotline, 352-353-7465. That's 352-353-7465. And of course, JC and myself coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. All right, you got your props out here floating.
All right.
Anytime I hear guaranteed money, I smile, man. What do you got for us?
I saw these two yesterday on college football total wins for two blue blood programs. The first one being the University of Michigan, the defending national champions. The total for them is 9.5, and you must be betting under this. They've got Texas in the second week of the season. They've got Southern Cal 2 weeks after that. They play at Washington, who lost a lot of players, but it's still a trip to Seattle. Gone are Blake Corum. Gone is J.J. McCarthy. Gone is those defensive backs. Gone is Jim Harbaugh. Everybody's going to be shooting for Michigan. And, oh, by the way, they've got Oregon, and who will probably run all over them, and they've got the Ohio State Buckeyes on the road. You must bet under in this scenario with the University of Michigan. There's no chance they win 10 games. 0.0. Then in Texas, the Longhorns, I just mentioned, will play Michigan. I think they'll beat Michigan, but their total is 10.5. Now, you said something about over 13.5. No, Seth, no. You go under 10.5 with the Texas Longhorns. They've got Oklahoma, who seems to have their number every year. The week after that, Seth, they play the Georgia Bulldogs. And yes, it's at home. It's in Austin. I don't care. They are playing the Georgia Bulldogs. They've got a traditional game with Arkansas that seems to be something that could bring up some ghosts from the past. They play at Texas A&M. They've only got room to lose one game on that schedule if you bet under 10.5. I'm taking the under on the Longhorns. They may win 10, but that's a winning bet because it's under 10.5, and I'm damn sure taking the under on Michigan under 9.5. There's zero chance they win 10 games. Those are your two winners. I'll repeat this in July because Shane will go, JC, and that'll be money in the bank for you come January. I know it's a long time away, but under Michigan, under Texas, total wins.
I'll give you the Michigan one. I think Texas is going to tear through this conference like you know what.
What? Come on, Seth. They're not playing Iowa State and Colorado.
What did they do to the Tide in Tuscaloosa last September?
Yeah. And then I saw them lose. Then I saw them lose to those brutal Oklahoma Sooners who can't stop a thing. And then I also saw them almost they should have lost to Kansas State if Will Howard wasn't such an idiot and that coach wasn't a bigger idiot for he couldn't add up what 1 + 2 equals. So the coach goes for 2, and they should have taken that game to overtime and maybe have beaten Kansas State. I am talking about. So I think Sark's great. Texas has got a lot of guys coming back. Ewers is great. Ewers this, Ewers that. And they're going to win 10 games, but they're not winning 11. That's my pick.
There you go. All right, there you go. Take JC's money to the bank. If he's wrong, he will quadruple your money. No, but
I shouldn't have said that. I probably should not have said that. But I really think those are two. I mean, you can only lose one game. That's a tough thing to ask. Is you're entering a new conference. You're going to be playing teams you do not know and have not played in history. And then you're playing a team that always seems to beat you in Oklahoma. You got the Georgia Bulldogs coming in. You are going to Michigan, even though I think you can win that game. I think Texas is going to lose at least 2 games. So we'll see. Kentucky's playing them too. Watch out for the Big Blue, right? So, and then you got A&M. What do you think it's going to be like in College Station on November 30th in College Station after Thanksgiving with Texas and Texas A&M? I mean, we'll see. I don't know.
I think Texas A&M is going to lose to Notre Dame to start the year by 2 touchdowns.
What? Really? Mike Elko? Really?
Yeah. I think he'll be okay, but he's not going to be okay.
Notre Dame. Who's their quarterback? They got a kid, the transfer to Notre Dame, pretty good player who's replacing Sam.
It's not going to matter.
I just heard his name last night. He's a transfer who's coming in to play at Notre Dame to replace Sam Hartman, who's gone now. It's the kid Riley Leonard. Yeah. Riley Leonard from Duke, who got hurt last year, who was outstanding. You don't think Mike Epko is going to know what to do with Riley Leonard?
Sure, maybe, but it's just a talent level at this point. Marcus Freeman's done a good job. Marcus Freeman's had 3 top 6 recruiting classes.
I hear the Indiana roots coming out of you here.
No, I think Notre Dame's they're a 9-3 team, but A&M has been a cesspool of humanity the last 3 or 4 years.
A cesspool of humanity. Well, they got rid of the problem. Even though it cost them $77 million, John James was the problem. They got rid of John James Fisher, so he's out now. You got a real coach there. You got a guy that knows how to win.
I think in a couple of years he'll be fine, but just out of the gate. Joe Wright said, Longhorns have the mighty Gators to deal with too.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Thank you, Joe. Well done. I don't know how I didn't even say that. Yeah. I mean, Florida's rolling in November 9th. You have no idea what to expect from those guys.
You go ahead and ride that mule. I'll ride Secretariat. How about that? PodUp with Matthews recording here on this Friday. Of course, brought to you in part by we already talked about Peachland Dentistry. Oh, Ruse Algra, State Farm Insurance. It's a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life for you and your family go in the right direction with the insurance options. Visit ograinsurance.com. That's OGRAinsurance.com. Give them a call, 352-240-1779. 352-240-1779.
I got a text from the Titan MRI text line from Brady. JC has lost his damn mind. Texas is rolling through the schedule. And I mean, maybe so. It's tough though, man, in college to roll through the schedule, especially when you've rarely done it in your life. But they do have a lot of great players. I'm not denying that at all. I'm just saying you have to basically not lose more than 1 game, and you're playing in a new conference. So to me, logically speaking, I think the under is to play. I think it's too high a number, but we'll see.
I get it because the schedule got exponentially tougher, and on nights where you can fall asleep at the wheel for 60 seconds and find a way to win in this conference, there's only about 2 or 3 teams you can do that with.
There's always going to be that one game too you play in the SEC where you just don't have it that day. I mean, it happens to just about every team except maybe Georgia because they don't play anybody. But there is a thing about playing a conference schedule, and especially a conference of this type, even though they're only playing 8 games, which kind of really infuriates me. It's just harder when you're playing a lot of unfamiliar type teams. That's the way I look at it. But Sark is a great game planner. He's a great schemer, probably the best offensive play caller. And I think he is better than Lincoln Riley. So because he's actually won something. So I would say, yeah, I think Sark is great, and Texas is going to be one of the top 2 picks in the league. There's no doubt about that, but I just think they're going to lose 2 games.
Let's see here. What other action do we have today? Okay. Well, of course, baseball, softball. Baseball continues their series. Softball, South Carolina. And then those games are going to bounce back and forth on the station here. So, I mean, it depends on the weather and what we got coming up for you. NHL Stanley Cup playoffs start. We'll have the Lightning and the Panthers for you following softball on Sunday.
That Lightning Panthers, Seth, I'm glad you're putting that on. That is some great stuff. And even though, I mean, these are 2 teams that just despise each other. That's a real rivalry in hockey. You wouldn't think there's a lot of that with these professionals these days, but they do not play well together. They go after each other. So it's a regional thing. I think Tampa Bay and Florida is some good viewing. Even if you don't watch hockey, if you like to see action, you'll get all you want with that. It's good stuff.
I saw this too the other day that now transferring, you don't have to sit out ever.
Yeah, no. You go as many times you want to too. You just hop around you got a passport, and you're just hopping from one to the other, hoppity hop. It really infuriates some of the ex-players that I know, specifically the one who's hosting this show. It infuriates him because he thinks loyalty matters, but economically speaking, what's in your pocket is now what matters, it feels like. And that's the way these kids are thinking, I think. Yeah, and they want to get on the field. So
yeah, and they, and I know you guys have discussed this, they are brands. Don't tell me that college athletes aren't brands. We just saw one woman change the entire landscape of her sport.
The whole thing.
She did so much that more people watched her than watched the boys. So everybody's their own brand. Everybody, like JC likes to do the old nostalgic thing that the name on the jersey means more than the name on the front means everything. You play for king and country. Those days are gone. Those days have been gone for a while. And there's one way to solve this. I've been saying this for a while now. You make them employees and they sign 2-year contracts. And you're going to have people leaving every 2 years. It's better than every week. So
and listen, the state of Virginia has taken one step closer to that by basically saying the schools can now pay these kids as if they are employees. The school, now that's different than NIL. That's actually saying the school can do it now in the state of Virginia. They've just passed that law. Look it up. It's there. So that's just the beginning of exactly what you're talking about, which will lead to some sort of representation for the players, which will then lead to some sort of collective bargaining agreement. It will all be part of the process of basically professionalizing college athletics, which is what it feels like right now.
And I know for all our scholars out there, I want to give them a time of frame reference. Right, JC, it's like right after we signed the Declaration of Independence and created the Constitution, and we had the Articles of Confederation before we got into the actual government that was built. So we have that 4 or 5 year stretch there where we didn't have a president, and we kind of have this up and down, topsy-turvy, 1777 to 81, right? And that 85, right? In that stretch in there. So that's kind of where we are when it comes to NIL.
You just quoted more history than probably anybody who watches this show has ever learned in their life. And that's very impressive. The Articles of Confederation made it on the podcast. That was outstanding. So
how about that? Well, as I always say, I not only do I bring good looks and immense sports talent, I bring knowledge to the.
That was outstanding. I love that. I thought that was outstanding. The Articles of Confederation.
The depths of depravity up and down the.
That was good. No, that was good. People just learned something. The 3 people watching us.
Look at JC, every time I see a ruling like this, or anytime anything comes down, somebody always chimes in, this is ruining the sport. But it's never been more popular. It's kind of like, it's one of these things, JC, where people are like, America sucks. I hate America. Then go over and live in Gaza. Go over there.
Go to Venezuela. Check out Caracas, Venezuela these days. Yeah. It's beautiful. How about
Mexico? Have a blast.
how about Managua, Nicaragua? Gorgeous this time of year. Just get on down there. I mean, you can, there's Publix on every corner down there. I mean,
go over and hang out in Crimea. Go ahead, go hang out in Crimea. Go over there. Tell me how fun that is right now. I did. That's what it's bloviating, grandstanding without facts behind. It's like I see it all the time. Like America sucks. This sucks. I hate it here. Like then leave.
I know. They got flights out of JFK every day. You can get to the ATL and get out of here just as fast. Yeah. This makes me laugh. This does make me laugh. But I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I just think that we've got a situation in college sports that's just so much different now. And either you adapt or you get left behind and you fail. And that's where I think Florida had some issues with that, specifically with NIL, as documented by the Jaden Rashada calamity. And but they've gotten better now with Florida Victorious is now a actual entity that people are aware of. Florida Victorious did a great job at the Orange and Blue game. The people involved in that are highly engaged, and it's now structured to where Florida can compete with the Texas A&Ms and the Georgias because they have organization. Doesn't mean they're going to get the same amount of money, but it does mean that they have that organization in place, and that is absolutely required. I think it just happened too fast, too quickly for some schools, including Florida, but I think they've caught up now, and we'll see if they can process these transactions that are going to entice people to come to play here. It's just the way it is, man. This is the new world order, okay? The 90s are over, and we've got to accept that, or we'll never be able to compete with what's going on.
I look at it, JC, just like different insurance rates or different TV packages. This is not right. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong.
Doesn't matter. It's the way it is.
And Freddie and those guys over at Florida Victoria, since they pivoted, did a nice job heading in the right direction. JC, I know you'd be more than willing to run it along with me. The next step is to put a sports book in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium on game days, and you can make what, $400,000 or $500,000 every single game day in there at least.
There is a lot of that happening. There's a lot of that happening in bigger markets. You go to the Arizona Diamondbacks baseball game, and as soon as you walk near the stadium, there's Caesars right there. Yeah. It's just the reality of what's happening. It doesn't mean you have to participate, but for those that want to, there it is. And I don't know about on college campuses, but some of these more urban campuses like Columbus, Ohio, Minneapolis, Minnesota, places like that, Madison, Wisconsin, big schools, big towns, things like that could happen. I'm going to Madison, Wisconsin. I got to see a game at Camp Randall. I've got to see that.
Not reinventing the wheel here. Just I set something up in there, and when they refurbish that sucker or rebuild it, it's a way to make extra money. And
UF, yeah, absolutely. They're going to do that. $400 million. Let's go.
Yeah, you bet. So just squeeze every penny you can get out of it. And I always say this. It's like when people at JC used to get mad because I don't want advertisements on jerseys. I'm tired of all the sponsors and all the money and all the ads during games. It's like I'd much rather have Nike or Goodyear or somebody else pay for it than me.
Yeah, it's a business. It's business. It's business. It's all business. That's just the way this is. It's business. If you say you don't like it in one way, then you can't say that you are happy to accept ESPN's $1.3 billion on the other side. Okay. And one of the reasons why the SEC is stuck on 8 games, I think this is accurate, is that ESPN basically told them, no, we're not going to pay extra for a 9th game. But they still should have 9 games. Otherwise, this is not a real conference. It's just an association with a bunch of schools that have the same similarities. You've got to play each other a lot more commonly if you're going to be called a true conference. And 9 games is the only way to do that. Hopefully in 2026 that'll happen, because for the next 2 years it will not.
And I had a great idea on that. If this conference wanted, this is how you cover all. This is how the SEC right now is still trying to catch the Big Ten in terms of money. And look, it's closing the gap. What the Big Ten payout is $100 million in 2 years. The SEC's 85. JC, just create a Monday night SEC football game on Amazon at 6:30 p.m. every single Monday during the season, and you'll be gangbusters.
Or you can do it maybe on a Sunday night. Well, no, you can't do that either, because the problem is they don't want to run into the NFL's games, right? Now the playoff is going to do that. you're going to have the playoff go right into the NFL playoff season, the postseason for the NFL. And that's going to happen with college football. It's going to compete with NFL playoffs, but it can be creative, play a game on a Friday night maybe or something like that, and not go directly against the Dolphins and the Bills in a wild card game or something like that. So
she's still the biggest beast. You got to avoid her at all times. That's why, like 6:30 game, and depending on what it
okay, I'm all for it. Look, these guys they don't want to start anything before 9 o'clock in the professional. Yeah, and of course the NCAA making us stay up all damn night to watch the UConn Huskies beat somebody is just bad. It's bad TV. It's not good. I mean, I didn't even make the second half.
You didn't miss much. PodUp with Matthews in the morning, a service of Campus USA. So help got me my car a full percentage point lower than anybody else. How about that? Of course, PodUp with Matthews brought to you in part by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power into your work and into your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Of course, PodUp with Matthews in the morning, coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security System studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. All right, we got the NFL draft that's coming up next week.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, and look, it's one of these things. It's a week from now. We're going to be analyzing, discussing the first round because the first round takes place next Thursday night. So, JC, I'm going to look into my crystal ball. Okay, you're a gambling man.
Yep. I got to say, the quarterback number is 4.5 in the first round. I'm going over that. And then the second pick is just as much a favorite, I think, as the first pick in terms of who the Washington team is going to pick. And it's clear to me that you're looking at Caleb Williams in Chicago and you're looking at Jalen Daniels in Washington. That's what the odds have. You'd have to lay 3-1 to get Jaden Daniels as the second pick to Washington. And Caleb Williams is something like 10,000 to 1. You can't. That's just automatic. It's already locked in. So that's what the Bears are doing, and that's what I think the Washington team is going to do.
I got questions for you. Tell me, the NFL draft is bigger and more enjoyable than these sporting events.
Oh, well, maybe these days it's gotten close. I know you like it more.
Final Four.
Final Four for
NFL draft or Final Four? What's more exciting?
Oh, no. The NFL, the Final Four is only exciting if your team's in there or if you're a degenerate gambler. The NFL draft, though, I think has a lot more appeal to more people because, again, not many people really were that excited about NC State or even, admittedly, Alabama playing and knowing what the result was going to be. Everybody knew that UConn was going to win this. So there was no drama whatsoever in the Final Four. So with the NFL draft, everybody knows who's going to be picked in the first couple of picks. But then after that, you've got real opportunity to improve your team, whoever that team is. And there's 32 of them. Is that right? 32? So, yeah. So I think that's right now, to answer your question, it's the NFL draft.
NFL draft or Major League Baseball All-Star game?
Definitely NFL draft. The Major League Baseball All-Star games. I don't even watch that.
NFL draft or the NBA Finals?
Again, just depends on who's playing. If Denver's playing who they beat last year? See, I don't even know that. So I'm going to go NFL draft unless your team's playing. Simple as that.
NFL draft or the U.S. Open in golf?
U.S. Open in golf. No question about that, dude. I mean, look at the galleries. You got hundreds of thousands of people trying to see, not just that. It's not like they got a front row seat. They're fighting to see what's going on, and yet they still go to the Masters and pay $1,000 to walk in, or the U.S. Open and pay some scalper all this money to walk in. And I'll tell you another great event is the U.S. Open tennis is outstanding in New York City. It's more of what's going on actually outside Arthur Ashe than what's going on inside, because it's just a big circus, like a county fair for sports and tennis. But the U.S. Open golf is unbelievable. Here we got the PGA coming up in May. I wouldn't say that would qualify, but definitely the U.S. Open in golf it's the best.
And I got one more. I need a gambling line for you. Over under 19.5 runs for the Vanderbilt Commodores these next 18 innings. Over under 19.5 runs.
You can bet the over, baby, and feel pretty damn good because you've already got 10 on the board. So you're saying 19.5 in the next two games?
Yeah, so the next 18 innings, they got 2 games left in this series.
You know what? I'm going to go against the conventional grain and wisdom and say under, actually. But I would feel pretty confident that if you wanted to go over, just go ahead and do it, because Florida can't stop anything. It's just same thing in football. It was the same thing in basketball. You can't stop the other team. You're going to lose. Simple as that.
There we go. It's again.
I hate it, but I'm just telling you the truth, guys. I mean, I don't like seeing the other team just. South Carolina just ran around the bases. It looked like we were watching something at the boys' club back in the 70s here in Gainesville. It was ridiculous.
No, and it's one of these things now too. It doesn't get easier now either for these guys.
Oh my God, they're going to Arkansas. That's a broom job there, dude. They're not beating that team. Come on. So
it'll take.
It is what it is.
Well, this is where, and I will leave you with this. They're 19-18 right now, JC. I don't see them winning 30 games. I don't
either. I certainly don't see that. No.
I don't know how
not without pitching. Sorry. And here's I have to, mea culpa to the viewers. And I'm going to speak for Shane here, and he's probably telling me I'm full of it and I shouldn't do this. But he and I were wrong about baseball. Okay. The fans were right. They had every reason to be concerned about the way this team threw the ball and the way this team hits the ball. It's just, they were right. We were wrong. We were trying to say, well, listen, if you lose to JU on Tuesday, it's okay if you beat somebody on the weekend in an SEC series. All of that was true until they took that dreaded trip to Columbia, Missouri. And I don't know what it is about the University of Missouri, but they got Florida's number. So it's just facts, folks. Sorry. I know it sucks to listen to, and you never thought you would hear that, but they have Florida's number at Missouri. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
The way it is. Gymnastics will compete for a championship coming up here, though. So you got that. And, of course, softball and everything else coming up this weekend. So there we go. So, JC.
Yeah. So I suck. Everybody's mad at me now, probably, for just telling them the truth. But, have a good weekend, folks. This is a beautiful area. I'd rather live here than Columbia, Missouri, obviously. And, they did win in basketball. Okay, so basketball did beat Missouri. But this is but so did everybody. But this is a beautiful place. It's going to be a great weekend, Seth, and I surely enjoyed my hour with you today.
All right, man. As always, thank you, JC. I am Seth Harp for Shane Matthews and Freddie Wiebe and Zach Rothrock. Thank you very much. Enjoy.